I know you're well aware of the whole situation.
Yes, sir.
In this case, as you know, you were wearing an Axon Flex body camera, and you pretty much recorded the whole event. You've had an opportunity to read her complaint,
Yes, sir.
to read the Officer Winter's statement who was on the scene with you. And what I'd like you to do right now, Tim, is just start from the beginning, where you were, what you were doing, and how the situation arose.
Okay. I was on routine patrol, just patrolling around in my police car up to Gemini North. Before we got to Greek Park Drive, or before I got to Greek Park Drive, I was heading towards Corporate in Alafaya. I saw a vehicle that was that Ms. King was operating change lanes from the right lane to the left lane, and didn't use her turn signal.
Were you behind her at that time?
I was.
Okay.
If I wasn't behind her, I should say I was in the lane next to her that's behind her, though.
Behind.
Yeah. But when she changed lanes, not signaling, she actually was like cutting off the driver in front.
Okay.
So.
And just so you'll know, I'm going to probably stop you at
No
certain
problem.
points, okay? Just so you can clarify things for me.
Sure.
Did she go past you? Like if you were driving on this, if you were driving, what direction were you driving?
I was driving on Gemini North, getting ready to cross over Greek Park Drive, headed towards Alafaya and Corporate.
Okay, and at this time, was she in front of you?
Yeah, she was in front. I don't know if she was the vehicle directly in front of me, if I was in the lane off to the left, or if I was directly behind her, but she was ahead of me.
Did you have an opportunity to see her operating that vehicle prior to that time? In other words, did she pass you, and did you have an opportunity to see inside that car?
I didn't see who was operating the vehicle at all. After we passed the Greek Park Drive in Gemini, I also noticed when she was braking that she only had one working brake light. So as we approached Alafaya and Gemini North, the intersection there, I got behind her and decided to initiate a traffic stop. She did a U-turn once the light turned green, back onto campus, and pulled off into that little offset that's in front of Sigma Chi. I pulled behind her and walked up, introduced myself, explained the reason why I stopped her. She only had one working brake light. She said that, I can't remember at what point she mentioned, but she said that her health was so bad or something like that. And, we actually get that a lot when we're on traffic stops. There's some medical something, I got to go to the bathroom, or, women are on their period or something like that,
Sure.
Something's going on. So, but the way that she was saying it didn't seem like it was to raise alarm. So I figured that if it was to the point where she absolutely needed medical attention, she would have been responding a little bit differently. I asked her for a license, registration, insurance. She handed me a driver's license and told me that she didn't have the registration. She said it was her mom's car. So I asked her again, well, do you want to look for the registration? Not having it is an additional fine. I asked her several times. I can't tell you exactly how many, but I trying to get her to look for the registration. And she didn't really make any attempt to do so, which kind of raised a little bit of concern for me because I wasn't sure if she was concealing something in the glove box that she didn't want me to see. Was there a contraband, weapon, anything of the sort? And she just didn't seem like she was too concerned with, trying to produce that registration, even despite it being an additional citable offense. Also, as I'm up here talking to the vehicle, I have my sunglasses on, so it does make things a little bit darker. It's a little bit harder to see through things too, the windows even. And I wasn't really in a position where I could transition from this to a headband at any time tactically during the traffic stop. After she refused to look for the registration, I went back to my vehicle and I decided to issue her a uniform traffic citation. I was actually not citing her for the registration, even though I warned her for it. I was going to give her a fix-it ticket for the brake light being out, for only having one working brake light.
I do have a copy of the original UTC that you were going to issue her, and it's 316-610. Is that the fix-it?
Yes, sir. That's a fix-it ticket. Yep. So that was the fix-it ticket that I was going to issue. When I look at traffic enforcement, that you're trying to correct the behavior, and she didn't seem too concerned about looking for the registration,
Right.
so I decided to go with the uniform traffic citation.
Okay.
But I did still cut into the brake, you know, right into fix a ticket instead of the registration. After I completed the citation, I reapproached the vehicle. Ms. King only had the window, I believe she had it up all the way at the time. I knocked on the window. She rolled it down a little bit, and I asked her if she could roll it all the way down. She started questioning why I needed it all the way down. You know, I'm paraphrasing. I don't know how many times, you know, I really asked, you know. So I asked her if she could roll it down. She asked why. I told her, you know, for my safety. She seemed very adversarial at that point. You know, I think it was because of the fact that she knew that she was going to be issued a citation. I told her that I liked her, you know, I wanted her to sign the citation. And she was questioning why I need the window down, why I need the window down, and I expressed to her that it was for my safety. At one point, she wound up rolling the window completely up. You know, I again told her, roll down the window. When she wasn't working, you know, after she wasn't rolling down the window, I ordered her out of the vehicle at some point there. I wasn't sure if it was, you know, after she rolled the window up completely and was refusing to get out, or if it was before that. But at some point during that exchange, since she didn't want to roll down the window, I asked her if she could get, or I told her to get out of the vehicle. You know, it's just her whole demeanor during the whole thing was very, you know, it just didn't add up to me. It was, you know, relatively minor infraction, and the refusal to look into the glove box really did raise concern that she might have something in the vehicle that she was trying to conceal. And then when I reapproached the vehicle, she's adversarial during that, not wanting to roll down the window, whereas initially she did roll down the window. You know, again, it started to raise a little bit of concern.
Can you come up with any theory as to why, at first, she was willing to roll her window down, but then after you approached the vehicle after writing the ticket, that she wouldn't? Is there any theory in your mind?
The only thing that I can think of is, I know that she was on the telephone at the time when I walked up, so I wasn't sure if she made a phone call to someone and they were giving her advice over the phone. I mean, it could also be that because she noticed that she was getting a ticket, she wasn't going to be as pleasant, you know, as she was initially. So, you know. Have you experienced that? I mean, you're a relatively experienced officer. How many years on the job? Well, between corrections here, it's be 12 years. Okay, but specifically in traffic enforcement. Yes, sir. Do you notice a change in people's demeanor when you're talking to them, as opposed to standing there with a citation in your hand? You do sometimes. You know, it's not an all-the-time thing. You know, I've had people thank me at the end of a traffic stop. You know, really, it's hit or miss. You know, some of the citations now are, you know, the civil penalties are pretty expensive. So, you know, and I understand that civil penalty could add some sort of financial burden onto them. So I do try to use discretion when I'm issuing citations. Sometimes if the offense is too egregious, I'll still elect to issue the citation. And, you know, I explain to them, and 9 times out of 10 they understand, and we just part ways. You know, everything's cordial. You know, we don't exchange, or, you know, we don't become adversarial at any time. You or me? I believe you, sir. Yes. Okay. So after I ordered the vehicle, she refused to. She rolled up the window. I walked back to my vehicle, put the ticket book on the hood of my car, and called for backup. Officer Winter was already sitting by Sigma Chi while I was on the traffic stop, just staying in the area while I was on the traffic stop. We do that normally. We back each other up, all of, you know, our squad. We don't necessarily pull behind and turn on the lights to have 2 cars with red and blue lights on, but we'll stay in the area in case, you know, that officer needs backup. So I called for backup. She pulled across. I was still ordering Miss King, you know, roll down the window or get out of the vehicle. She wasn't complying with that. She rolled down the window at one point, and she said, you know, I can't remember what point, I believe she said sometime that I'm not refusing to sign the citation or something during that point. Because, you know, I understand she's not required to sign the citation, but we never really got to that point. You know, it was kind of leading up to that point. You know, and she wasn't refusing to sign the citation, she just wasn't getting out of the car or rolling down the window. So at one point, Officer Winter's up, we're both ordering her to roll down the window or get out of the vehicle. I see Miss King look over towards Officer Wenner at one point, and the window was cracked, and I saw opportunity where I thought that I could possibly open the door. So I reached in through the window and started to go down towards the unlock button. And at that point, she looked back over, and I warned her. I said, if you roll up the window on my arm, and that's pretty much where I got to. I started feeling the pressure on the window. Now my arm was like, it's kind of hard to explain because I was like reached in like this, sort of. So I know on the camera you're actually seeing off to the left of the window while I'm doing it.
Right.
So you don't really get a clear view of my right arm that's in there. And I realize that there is, because of me reaching in, the sheer nature of how wide the window is open, there's going to be some pressure already on my window. But the second she started pushing down on the button is when I broke the window. Opened the door, ordered her out of the vehicle.
Now, was it your intent to break the window, or what were you trying to do?
I was trying to get my arm out.
Okay. Well, you had your right arm in the window, and you reached with your left arm. Okay?
Yeah.
Was it your intent to break the window?
Well, at that point, I can't really tell you what my exact intention was with that. It was just one of those things. My arm was in there, and it was just a split-second decision where, I was pulling my arm out, and then also I believe I had my left hand on the window, and that's how I actually pulled, on there. It was clear to me that she wasn't being compliant, and at that point I already decided that I was going to place her under arrest, before that. She was resisting arrest without violence. I try to get her. In a perfect world, I probably would have preferred to break a rear window or something like that, if we had to get into a vehicle to try to, apprehend someone or arrest someone, not the front. But again, once I started reaching into the window, I was kind of committed to that action. I wasn't going to necessarily retreat from that. I made the decision, and that's what I was going to stick with. I broke the window, unlocked the door, got her out, was ordering her to the ground. She was rigid, tense, fighting. I wouldn't say fighting, like punching or anything like that, but she was resisting again. Still, she was a little, tense while we were trying to get her to the ground.
Was she pulling away from you or anything?
She was tensing her, maybe not like jerking her arms away, but she was, trying to, pull them away. It wasn't like, she was, I would say actively resisting, yes, for sure, but it wasn't like she was forcefully, like shrugging back and forth or anything like that. It was just more like, trying to clam up or close her arms. We got her on the ground, handcuffed her, got her up. She was, she did mention before that she was going to the medical or going to the health center for something. I asked her if she needed an ambulance if she was injured. I looked up and down to see if there was any visible injuries on her. I didn't see anything visible. I looked down and actually noticed that I actually had blood on me, and I wasn't sure if it was from me or if it was from her. So rescue arrived. I believe she was alleging that she was having a miscarriage or something like that. I believe it was a miscarriage that she said that she was having. Fire department came out, assessed her. She declined to be transported to the hospital. I think it come to find out that it wasn't a miscarriage, that it was, she was having irregular bleeding or something like that. I heard that somewhere from on the scene. I couldn't tell you exactly who, if it was FD or someone else.
Well, you've probably reviewed the tape several times, haven't you?
Well, I watched the tape several times. I haven't watched it, I can truthfully say, since probably early November.
So you were able to use the tape to recollect the events, I'm sure. So.
Well, yeah, if I were to watch the tape again, I would definitely be able to tell you exactly, specifically what was occurring at that time. But, this kind of reached the media, and it became quite stressful for me and my family. So I haven't watched it since, like, November. It was just one of those things that I was trying to put behind me, So that's pretty much where it was. FD came out, assessed me. I wound up arresting Ms. King for resisting with violence, resisting without, and battery on a law enforcement officer.
Did you ever issue her the ticket?
I believe I did.
No, this one was voided.
And I believe I wrote another one. I believe I wrote another one for the fix-it ticket.
Okay.
So,
And he's still the same charge, fix-it ticket?
yeah, and last I recall, I checked on my orange clerk, she just paid the citation.
Okay.
So, and that's pretty much
All right.
how I remember it, sir.
Okay. Well, as you know, we have the event on video, and you know, again, it's very easy to line up, you know, your events to the video. So, but let's talk specifically about the charges, okay?
Okay.
She described your actions as violently and aggressively breaking the window. How do you respond to that?
I don't think I was violently or aggressively doing anything. I think, if anything, her act was more violent or aggressive than my act. You know, she was trying to roll the window up on my arm. So I definitely don't think that my actions were aggressive by any means. Of course, you are going to use some force to break a window, but it's not meant to intimidate or anything like that. It's meant to free my arm and, you know, conduct business. So my argument to that or my statement to that would be that her acts were more aggressive than mine.
In her statement, she also states that she was trying to communicate with Officer Winter.
Yes.
It doesn't indicate whether or not the passenger side window was down. Did she roll down the passenger side, do you recall?
I don't recall. You know, she might have cracked it.
Okay.
I really don't recall. You know, I did try looking through the window several times, and I can't remember seeing if the passenger side window was down at all. I can tell you that it wasn't completely down, because Officer Winter the entire time was ordering, roll down the window or we're going to break the window, the same thing. So,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you for sure, though.
Okay. She claims that you were using intimidation towards her. Do you feel that there's any substance to that allegation?
Absolutely not. You know, I think at a certain point during the exchange, I wouldn't say intimidation, but, you know, I do become a little stern at one point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, initially it's ma'am, ma'am, ma'am. I'm exchanging ma'am. I'm addressing her as ma'am. Can you please roll down the window? It's for my, you know, trying to explain the whole situation. And when, you know, she's being adversarial, you know, I'm not going to sit there and just ask her a million times to roll down the window. We're not getting anywhere. You know, the situation isn't developing. We're not progressing anywhere. So, you know, I will say that, you know, my tone of voice probably changed.
Mm-hmm.
It was not in a means to intimidate, but it was a means to show that I mean business right now, and, you know, trying to get her to comply with my lawful order.
All right, and obviously, you made a comment earlier that you realized that she was not required by law to sign the citation.
Yes, sir.
And she actually made comments that, you know, well, in her statement, that the window was rolled down enough for you to pass the citation through the window. Why did you decide not to follow that course of action?
Well, once I walked up, you know, and I was asking her to roll down the window, and she wasn't complying with that, and became, you know, very adversarial at that point. You know, that just heightens my awareness even more as to why she's not looking for her registration going in the glove box. Why is she being so argumentative and adversarial at this point? The situation didn't need to escalate. You know, it needed to stay down here, and her actions by, you know, her being adversarial really escalated the situation. You know, looking at it, you know, could you have passed the citation through there at some point? Sure, but then again, I'm also risking other things. You know, I don't know if she's concealing other things in the vehicle. I don't know if she, you know, she is going to drive off. We never really got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on traffic stops, I typically, when I issue a citation, I'll go up. You know, I say I'm issuing a uniform traffic citation. You know, you have a couple options to take care of the citation. If you'd like me to explain them to you, I'd like you to sign right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I haven't had really anyone tell me no. You know, and if they did, that's fine. You know, I also recognize that she doesn't have, You know, she doesn't have to roll down her window all the way, you know, but from an officer safety standpoint, I couldn't necessarily see what was in the car. I thought that my order was reasonable. Or, you know, my request was reasonable. And I also know that, you know, there is case law that states we can order people out of the vehicle at any time, and it just didn't feel right to me. So that's the reason why I told her to get out of the car. As far as the signing of the citation, like I said, we never really got to that point. We were getting to that point, we were approaching that point, and that's when things kind of just hit the fan.
Gotcha. All right. She further makes a statement that she felt she wasn't being treated well because she was black and the officers were white. How do you respond to that statement?
I think it's ludicrous, to be honest. You know, it was, and I think the accusations are just heinous. I had no idea what Miss King's race was before conducting the traffic stop whatsoever. And it doesn't matter what race you are. If you're white, black, Hispanic, whatever, I'm going to treat you the same. And you can pull up videos from traffic stops and see. You know, I treat everyone the same. And I think those accusations are just ludicrous.
Okay.
Completely off the wall.
All right. Well, then specifically to the charges presented to you, all right, do you believe that you were rude to Ms. King?
No, I do not.
Impolite? Discourteous?
No. I actually think I exercised a lot of patience, you know, initially, you know, multiple times for the registration, and also when she wasn't rolling down the window, I still addressed her as ma'am. I was respectful, trying to get her to roll down the window. And then we reached the point where I became stern, but I still don't think it was unprofessional or anything at all. I think it was well within my means or my authority.
Did you, in fact, ever gain access to her glove box?
We did.
Did you find anything in there?
Found the registration.
So there wasn't registration?
Yes, sir.
No insurance card?
I couldn't tell you if the registration or the insurance card was in there. I believe it was Officer Elliott that did the inventory search, but I do know that the registration was in the vehicle.
Okay. No weapons?
No, nothing, no contraband, nothing out of the ordinary. You know, that's why if she would have just opened the glove box and looked for it, she probably could have got the registration.
Yeah.
So.
Was it locked, and that's why because in the video, she reaches over, but then stops and says, I can't get in there, or something to that effect. Was it locked?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I really don't remember.
Major point. All right, Tim. Well, you pretty much addressed all the concerns that she had, and I guess the final stage will be at this point. Is there anything you would like to add to assist in my investigation in regards to this matter?
That's nothing that I can really think of. I'm not sure if you were aware that Ms. King already had a student conduct hearing, and I have a deposition coming up for the criminal case for that, but I don't know anything else from an administrative standpoint, sir.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, it is 10:49, and this concludes the interview.
Okay.